You know, he also said he was afraid of me, and he was saying all kinds of things. The government prosecutors threatened these people because he was afraid he was going to get charged with crimes.
He was never charged.
And they gave him immunity.
He was never charged, and he was never given immunity. That's not true, sir.
The Greenlee, the deputy governor, was given immunity. The other one, that's the one who said I hid in the bathroom for my budget director. How absurd is that? The fact is, he's afraid of me on the one hand. I have the power to fire somebody. I'm going to hide in the bathroom from somebody.
Did it happen?
Who said that was given immunity. It did not happen. Of course, it did not happen.
Did he have to go? Did he have to track you down to a bowling alley to get you to talk about 20 bills?
No, look. When you're the governor, wherever you are, you're on the clock. There was one deputy governor who testified that he once had to go and get me to sign something or sign some bills when my little baby Annie was getting her first haircut. It was a Saturday, and I had him come over and bring the bills there. I was eager and happy to work on a Saturday, even when my daughter was getting her first haircut. And, you know, remember, in the fall of 2008, that's an election year, Chris, and you know how politics is. One of the things I was very scrupulous in making sure I did was to separate politics from government and keep any political activity as much as I could out of the governor's office. And so you work out of your campaign office or out of your home.
But signing bills isn't out of the governor's office.
And government there.
Signing bills and dealing with the budget isn't out of the governor's office. Let me move on, because you have made several points today of saying in a retrial that you're going to call Rahm Emanuel, you're going to call Harry Reid. If this retrial is held during the fall, how damaging is this going to be for national Democrats? Look, I've said what this prosecutor is trying to do is politicize, it's criminalize politics, and he's selectively prosecuting me. I think there's some other motivations. The Wall Street Journal has urged that he either resign or be fired because of this persecution of me, Scooter Libby, and Conrad Black. There's a bipartisan dynamic here. There's a playbook that these guys use. But if I may ask you to answer my question, sir, how damaging will this be for Democrats if this whole trial, your whole problems, Rahm Emanuel, Harry Reid are all involved with the Blagojevich case in the fall of this year?
If they tell the truth, they've done nothing wrong and I've done nothing wrong. We talked about political horse trading to varying degrees, depending upon who I talked about, and it's not at all unlike. There are apparently, under published reports, a new federal judge who was made because the Obama administration was able to get a congressman to vote for his health care plan. Or the idea of the Senate candidate in Pennsylvania.
Governor, I looked at that case. First of all, the brother who was appointed a federal judge had been the dean of the Utah Law School and a U.S. attorney. And secondly, the congressman voted against health care reform. So that's a pretty lousy example.
Well, there was a published report that said just the opposite. Mr. Sestak in Pennsylvania, and the talk about it, giving him a position in the government,
either.
So he doesn't.
So, wait a minute. Are you saying Are you saying, sir, that your ethics are no different than Rahm Emanuel's? Your ethics are no different than Harry Reid's?
I'm saying that yes, yes, it's the same. It's political horse trading that these prosecutors are trying to criminalize, and they weren't able to do it without us putting on a defense. If we put on a defense and properly explain these things, I think the jury will see it for exactly what it is: political horse trading. It was never about campaign funds. I never made a decision to do that. The decision I made was to make a political deal. The Attorney General of Illinois, whose father was blocking the Public Works bill, in exchange for appointing her to the Senate, I wanted those jobs created, 500,000 jobs, health care expansion, and a promise not to raise taxes. Rahm Emanuel, on the day before my arrest, was going to be the guy to make that deal happen. I spoke to Harry Reid about this and Menendez. I spoke to them on the telephone about these things. They were willing to help, and it was about to happen. This prosecutor
so you're guilty of nothing.
He came into my home and arrested me.
I want to make clear, you're saying you're guilty of nothing more than Harry Reid, Senator Menendez, and Rahm Emanuel.
That's exactly right, absolutely right. And they did nothing wrong either. And they should be witnesses in the next trial. We're going to try to call President Obama again. He did nothing wrong either. They can help prove my innocence and help vindicate me.
Let me ask you, you said the other day that after the feds arrested you, that they pressured you to try to give information on higher-ups. Now, you're the governor of Illinois. I can't imagine there was any higher-up than Barack Obama, who had just been elected president of the United States. Why didn't you give evidence on him?
Well, I'm going to have something to say maybe later on about that, and in terms of maybe possibly more specifics. But let me say this. I'm not going to lie about people or do things to people what they've done to me because I'm being squeezed and pressured by the powerful federal prosecutor who's looking for a political trophy. I'm not going to sell people out and make things up and do to others what has been done to me. And what this fight is about is much bigger than just me. This is a system now that doesn't have a check and balance on these prosecutors. This guy went after Scooter Libby, threw all kinds of things at him, and ultimately they got a conviction on perjury or false statements or whatever the case is. It's almost like there's a playbook here. And it's all about sort of getting a guy that's close to the real power so that maybe if they get him, they can then get the next guy. And I think ultimately, if the whole truth is given a chance to be heard, people will see this for exactly what it is.
You know, as you point out, while there was a hung jury on 23 of the counts, you were convicted of giving false statements to the FBI. You're going to appeal, but are you afraid of going to jail, sir?
No, I'm not. Again, I trust in the truth, and I believe this is a marathon. This is a very difficult thing when you're fighting these prosecutors with their power. This has been almost 2 years. We've been to strides from the very beginning to where we are now. I'm much closer to proving my innocence and being vindicated, and this jury, has helped me in a substantial step get to that point. From 5 years ago, they took a conversation where I agreed voluntarily to cooperate with them. They would not allow a court reporter in there. And they took this, and it was half a count, actually, because the first part of the statement, the jury did not reach that same finding. But with regard to the second part, it was in the context of, do I track fundraising and who gets state contracts? And I said I did not. And that's why they wanted to interview me, and we will appeal that, and I believe we have a very good chance to be successful at that. I didn't lie to the FBI, and I'm not lying to you, and I'm not lying to the people.
Finally, Governor, you said the other day that you don't rule out a political comeback, and you compared yourself to Winston Churchill. You can't be serious.
Comparing myself to Winston Churchill, no, you're right, I'm not serious. I don't smoke cigars or scotch, and I think I can run faster than him. But if you're asking me, do I believe there's a potential political comeback in the future? When I'm vindicated in this case, absolutely I do. Because people will see that I was willing, all by myself almost, and my band of lawyers who are working very hard and done a great job, to fight the power of the federal government and correct this imbalance. There is something very dangerous in America today where you can have these prosecutors with that power, and all the politicians are afraid of them. Okay, when they can squeeze you and do the sorts of things that they've done to me.
Are you saying that if you get successful here? Are you saying if you get out from under this case that you'd like to run for office to try to affect some of the lessons that you've learned here?
You know, Chris, when I was governor of Illinois, every child got access to health care under me. All our senior citizens take free public transportation, preschool for all 3- and 4-year-olds. I never raised taxes on the people. My adult life was serving the people as a congressman, as a governor. It's what I know. I'm not very good on BlackBerries or computers or anything like that. It's why Donald Trump fired me on Celebrity Apprentice. But no, I'm not ruling myself out as coming back, because I will be vindicated in this case. We're significantly closer to vindication now than I ever was. They can twist things and take things out of context and play less than 2% of the tapes. The government can go and do everything it can to prevent the evidence they created from being heard. But I challenge this prosecutor, release the tapes on December 8th. Release the tapes and transcripts on December 8th and December 7th and December 6th. All the evidence on the days and weeks leading up to my arrest. And then you take a look at all of that and you tell me whether he was stopping a crime spree or whether he was stopping 500,000 jobs, health care for 300,000 people, and a written promise by the Democratic leaders who wanted to override my veto not to raise taxes on people.
Governor, we're going to have to leave it there. We want to thank you so much for coming in today and answering all our questions, sir.
Thank you, Chris.
Up next, the controversy over the mosque.